Hi, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of the Lucky Breaks podcast. I'm Sue Lueder.
And I'm Erin Shulman.
And we're here today in our very first episode to tell you a little bit about ourselves and our origin stories when it comes to the game of pool, as well as why are we doing this podcast. Erin, why don't you get us started with a little bit of your origin story with the game of pool?
All right. Yeah, well, pool for me started out when I was a kid, under the age of 10. I don't exactly remember when we started, but we had a pool table at home. And my dad even got us special pool cues that they were smaller to grip because we all had small hands. We were kids just playing on this 9-foot table. We just would mess around. We didn't know what we were doing. Had a step stool, to be able to see me over the table. We would have house parties. We would play pool. We would put in some classic rock CDs and jam out to Tom Petty and Steely Dan and just shoot pool
The
when we were
best
kids.
pool music.
Yeah, it really was. So every time it comes on in the pool hall, I'm like, oh, this is the pool playing music. Whenever Tom Petty comes on or something.
I have a playlist. I'll tell you about it.
Yeah. That's a real thing, having your pool playlist. That's a topic.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of started the foundation of knowing pool existed, I guess. And then it just kind of has been in my life ever since. When I was in my 20s, I would go out to bars and play some pool here and there, but it was literally just bar pool. And when I think of it now, I'm like, what was I doing? I had no idea, but for what I knew how to do, I was good, I guess. But then I actually quit pool for probably about 10 years, from about 25 to 35. Not to age myself here, but and then I realized that I really wanted to pick it back up again. I didn't know where to start. I wasn't really wanting to just go hang out in a bar. So I found on meetup.com, there was the recreational pool players group. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a try. And met up with a group of people, and we all hit it off day one. It was we were meant to hang out and play pool together.
You met my friend Rich there,
yes,
didn't
I
you?
met Rich there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met in that meetup, actually. And I'm forever grateful. Our friend Royce and Ben, they're the ones that were hosting this group. Without that group, I don't know if I would have found my way back, to the level that it is today. But yeah, I met Rich there, and can I name drop Nick Clark? He was in that group too.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah. So playing in the recreational, we get together once or twice a month or so, maybe once a week sometimes, at different bars around San Diego. And then another friend of mine that I used to work with would always go to a bar in North Park. They had free pool on Monday nights. So I would go there and play and, try my best. But now that I'm deep in the league, I realize I'm always scouting for people when I'm out, and there were pool league people there, and they were also kind of scouting and invited me to join a pool league. I'm like, what's a league? I didn't even know this existed.
Yeah.
So that is now I'm just really deep into pool leagues. I'm a captain on a couple teams, and it's just kind of I want to say snowballed from there.
Yeah.
Just being picked up at a bar.
Yeah, that is so funny.
To join the team. I think I've been playing in the APA for almost 10 years. I think I started in 2016.
What's your skill level now?
I bounced from a 3 to a 4 in 8-ball, and I am a 4 in 9-ball. Yeah.
I would have said you were definitely a 4.
Yeah, I had a bad year.
That happened.
And it kind of, is represented in my skill level drop. But I've taken some lessons, and I'm trying to get that back up because I don't want to be a forever 3. I do strive to do better.
But 3s are so valuable too, so.
They are. And I like being the 3 sometimes, but I still want to do better.
Yeah.
I study and do all the things and practice, watch the videos.
It's an interesting kind of comparison or conflict maybe between you want to be better and you want to have your skill level reflect that, but you kind of have to know that as your skill level goes up, you're probably going to lose more. And that's kind of sucky, but I totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the competition, like when I had to bump up to playing the 4s and the 5s in 8-ball, it was a whole different playing field
Even
than
though it's just
playing
one
the
more
3s.
game.
Just one more game. The knowledge is different. Like my safety play has to change. The safeties that a 5 can get out of are different than what a skill level 3 knows how to get out of.
True.
It's just like, yeah, it's a whole new world up there. But I want to try to become a 5 eventually.
Of course, yeah.
But
I'm sure you're on your way. How many nights a week do you play?
Let's see. Got Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Saturday once a month, or twice a month, excuse me, and Sundays I'm on a BCA team for 8-ball. And I think that's it for now.
Yeah, very cool.
Just about enough. Yeah. So what about you, Sue? What is your story?
My
Where did you
origin
start
story?
with pool? Yeah.
Well, very similar story. I feel like I got picked up in a bar. So I used to live in Pacific Beach, and I would go out with friends to the kind of the same spot all the time. And they had pool tables, so that was always my sort of preferred activity of choice when I would go out with friends. And there was another woman there who saw me playing and said, "Oh, I think you'd be great in a league. Why don't you join?" And I joined a team out of the library.
Nice.
Was my first team. And in the very first season, like at the end of that session, the team captain moved out of town and they said, "Oh, I think Sue, you'd be a great captain." So I became a captain right away. I was a skill level 3.
Quick.
Yeah. Yeah. And I became the captain. And then that next kind of session, our team qualified for Vegas and nationals.
Oh, that's great.
I know. So my very first year, I was the captain of a team that went to Vegas for 8-ball. And I just remember being like, "Oh my God, this is incredible," right? Like I'm just started. I'm a 3, so valuable. And we went to Vegas. We didn't do very well. There was some drama, which there sometimes is drama on these teams. But we had a great time. I had a great time, and that was really the beginning. And I think by the time I started my 3rd session, I'd gotten invited to be on a 9-ball team. So I started playing 9-ball. And that was, over 20 years ago. And I've crossed the 2,000 match mark with APA. And so I've just become a huge fan of the game. BCA has been a great addition to my life. I really love the BCA format. But I don't know that I can ever let go of the APA. I sort of have like this weird love-hate relationship with the APA because I really love that it brings in new players like I was when I first started.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But at the same time, that comes with additional sort of stress and drama. You have to have a lot of patience because you're watching people of various skill levels. And after, 20 years, it's like I've watched, not only have I played 2,000 matches, I've probably watched 10,000 matches at this point.
It's true, because we're watching at least 4 other people play a night, right?
Exactly. And so it can get a little, it's a lot, but I still love the game, obviously, and really excited for playing it until, basically I can't, hold the cue anymore. So,
yeah. So what is your skill level now?
So right now in the APA, I'm a skill level 5. I've been up to a 6 in 8-ball for sure. In fact, I'm trying to get to 6 in 8-ball again. That's really tough, but I feel like my 8-ball game is doing well. My 9-ball, for some reason, I can't seem to break through to a 6 in 9-ball. I have my hypotheses on why that might be, and it's not about my game, or at least not about my physical game. It's definitely about my mental game. But yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Oh, great. Yeah, you've come a great long way, and there's so much more to go.
Yeah. And the BCA is really teaching me a lot of new strategies and techniques that I'm excited to put into play.
Yeah. The BCA for me, I approach it a bit differently than I do for APA because our BCA league, we're both in the same league. We get points per each ball, and I have a different approach to my game when I play higher skill level people in that because
you just try and get balls.
Sometimes I'm not playing the same pattern I would in APA to get the full rack because occasionally those extra points are gonna help us win the round.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is I'm gonna take the duck in the pocket as opposed to getting that trouble ball out sometimes.
Right. Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I really have enjoyed that BCA league too. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm really glad Josh Watson started that league.
Yeah.
And speaking of Josh Watson,
Mhm.
so he's going to be one of our first guests on this podcast. So maybe we
Yeah.
can segue into like,
Yay.
what is this podcast all about? Who are we and why should we start a podcast? So Erin, why don't you start and say kind of like what's interesting to you about this podcast? Why did you want to get involved?
Well, I always love learning about pool, and I'm constantly studying the game, watching pros, watching amateurs, watching anything I can online, watching people live and in person, like all the matches and stuff, because I'm looking for ways that I can improve and how I can bump up from that 3 and become that 4.
Mm-hmm.
I just love pool and love talking about it and listening to other people's stories and what they've experienced. Because I've recognized across all skill levels, a lot of people are going through the same thing. A lot with the mental mindset, which is a heavy part of my practice. Not having that negative chatter. That's been very active in my pool playing because I'm very quick to say bad things to myself internally when I miss shots or don't get the leave. And it's like, you're not going to say that to your teammate. You don't need to say it to yourself. But I'm really looking forward to working on the podcast just to be able to hear those stories. And maybe it's going to, a light bulb will go off and be like, oh, yeah, that's something that's going to work for me. And another side of it is I'm curious about the technical side and the production side of the podcasting. And so, yeah, I'm just like a whole little roundabout of learning the pool and learning the podcasting. And I'm really excited like to be able to do this. And yeah. What about you? Like, what intrigued you to do a podcast about pool?
Yeah. Well, I did a little podcast last year. It was audio only, and it was really fun. It was kind of about a different subject. It was kind of more story. It was stories, but all about sort of reflecting on an experience. And I interviewed Josh Watson for that podcast, and it was really
Mm.
good, and I really enjoyed doing it. And during that podcast, when I was interviewing him, I was like, Josh, I feel like there's a lot of content and subject matter that we could cover just related to pool, meaning
Mhm.
it could be its own podcast. And I looked around at other podcasts that were out there, and there are a few out there. Cue It Up, Dogging It are a couple,
Mhm.
but they're more geared towards sort of the professional world and the professional tournaments, and those are definitely very interesting. But they're not always as relatable to folks like you and me, who are at
Yeah.
a kind of a
Yeah.
different stage in our career.
Mhm.
And hearing about the pros and how great they are is wonderful, but we can't always relate, right? Like
Yeah.
we don't really have the time to go practice for hours during the day. So
No. Yeah.
we want tips that will help people at our level.
Mhm.
And so that's one part. The other part is what I think is really interesting about the game of pool. And I sort of alluded to it with the team trip to the nationals. I think when you're playing on a team, especially these APA teams, there's a lot of team dynamics that come out, and I think there's a lot of interesting
Mhm.
things we can learn about being a teammate, being a team captain, being a coach that apply not just to the world of pool, but also outside of the world of pool,
Yeah.
in a work
Yeah.
world or in families or groups of
Oh,
friends.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like translating that different personalities. That goes a long way
yeah,
everywhere. Yeah.
yeah. And how do you pick people for the team? How do you sort of think
Yeah.
about your team vibes
Mhm.
and team dynamics so that you can all win as a team? Because
Mhm.
one of our guests who we've already interviewed, Jared, talked about sort of the you can manage yourself as an individual, but
Mhm.
when you start to expand that to a whole team and you need your whole team to perform so you can get to the next level in a tournament, that adds a whole new extra dimension.
Yeah.
And I think that part's really interesting as well. So I thought we could talk to some teams,
Yeah.
couples who play together as a doubles team, things
Mhm.
like that. So I think there's just a lot of subjects we could cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
And every time I mention it around the way when I'm playing, people are like, "Oh, that sounds awesome! I'd love to listen to the podcast."
Yeah.
So I'm super excited to launch this into the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
Yeah,
I'm really excited.
yeah, for sure. But we're new to video, so you may notice that our videos are not maybe as highly produced as some more
Mhm.
professional podcasts might be. We're kind of using the equipment that we have on hand.
Yeah.
Maybe if this podcast takes off, we can invest in more upgrade equipment. But for now, we're kind of keeping it casual, doing interviews in our house, maybe going out to bars and doing audio only when it makes sense. So
trying different setups, see what works, and what our guests are comfortable with as well.
For sure. Yeah. So if you're watching this and you're interested in being a guest, we are going to put a form on our YouTube channel page, and we would love to hear from you, and you can reach out and we can schedule an interview.
Yeah, and if there's any topics that you're interested in, please reach out. We will happily talk about anything pool related.
Yeah, exactly. And who knows, we may branch this out into doing some live streams of some matches or things like that. Who knows?
Yeah,
but we're excited to do this. And thank you, Erin, so much for joining me on this journey. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It's going to be really exciting.
Yes, for sure. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Lucky Breaks podcast. You can find more episodes at youtube.com/@luckybreaks-podcast or by searching for Lucky Breaks on your favorite podcast player. This episode was produced by Sue Lueder and Erin Shulman. Thank you for your support. Sign up to be a guest on a future episode from our YouTube channel page.